Ko waio, ko Te Āti Awa, ko Taranaki te iwi, ko Joshua Hitchcock aho. For the past 15 years, I've worked in and for Māori businesses around Aotearoa. As a commentator on Māori issues, I have a deep interest in how Māori businesses operate and how Māori contribute to and are impacted by the New Zealand economy. This documentary takes a look into the Māori economy to see how it works, what drives it, and what makes it, and the businesses who operate within it, different from the wider New Zealand economy. So I welcome you to this insight into a fascinating and growing part of the Aotearoa New Zealand economy.
I think of the Māori economy as being defined by three things. It's intergenerational thinking. None of the entities who are charged with looking after taonga are thinking short term. We have a 500-year intergenerational plan called Te Pae Tawhiti. The rangatahi really led a series of wānanga and hui with everyone from our employees to our queer, to the board members, to management, and developed what becomes Te Pae Tawhiti. That was then adopted by the families, and it's now the document that sits above everything that Wakatū does. It directs all of our activities as well as the activities of our businesses, kono and whenua and so on. It's about building value over those generations, and also it's about collective responsibility. And so the really exciting thing I think about the Māori economy is it actually provides a new economic model for New Zealand.
There are some large headwinds coming our way. The long-term impact of COVID and the ongoing effects of climate change is a couple of examples. As a society, we need to build the economic model that addresses these challenges and ensures intergenerational equity. It simply has to be built into everything that we do.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Māori way of doing business became the New Zealand way of doing business, because it's much better grounded in the quality of the people that are in the relationship. That unique selling proposition is around the sustainability, the environmental care, the long-term grounding of our businesses to look after subsequent generations. That actually is our unique selling proposition.
Kaitiakitanga, Māori tanga, Manaki tanga. All of this language is just natural to the Māori culture. You are seeing people now thinking much longer term about, is this business environmentally sustainable? Am I treating my workers with a living wage? Are they getting the education? That pastoral care in communities is now very much standard top table business discussions, whereas 30 years ago it didn't exist. And I think that it's unstoppable and it will accelerate.
And Māori have been the guardians of this country. They've been the kaitiakitanga of our native flora and fauna. They're simply doing the same thing, but they're doing it in business. And that's a lesson for all of us.
We've got a big environmental agenda because big time issues now are climate change, our carbon emissions trading systems, the Resource Management Act, how we use natural capital.
So just dealing with climate change in itself is not going to work. It requires a commitment to longer term thinking, intergenerational planning, looking for ways to add value in a myriad of ways, not just economic value, cultural value, social value over time.
Wakatū does it, and we'll do it. We're here forever. We're not a business that's for sale.
One of the things that Miraka does really well is Te Ara Miraka, which is basically a sustainability plan. The Te Ara Miraka model is the stage scheme, and so you can earn up to 20 cents a milk solid by fulfilling all these requirements around people, livestock, environment, hygiene, reproductive ability within a herd. All these are qualified up.
You know, we pay a significant amount of money out of our company profits back to the farmers for them to continue to lift their performance on farm.
I think it's a really clever way of getting people on board. We need to be proactive and do our best with what we can do in that space.
We have massive challenges as a member of the dairy industry. Somewhere along the way, in the last 10 to 15 years, we've lost the faith of the public. And as a company, that's just not sustainable. So from a Māori perspective, that idea of making connection, whakawhanaungatanga and whakapapa, there's a break in the chain. So in lots of ways, part of our role is to think about ways that we can start to reinvent and reconsider our existing practice and our existing industry in a way that builds that connection, that builds that confidence and builds that unity back to us. So again, in 20 years time, 50 years time actually in terms of climate change, we can all arrive at a place that we're happy and we're together once again.
This is a key challenge for the Māori economy. We are heavily invested into agriculture, and there is a clear link between agricultural practices and climate change and environmental degradation in Aotearoa. We need to be continuously asking ourselves whether intensive dairying is the best use of our whenua. Is the economic return worth the environmental cost?
Global warming, in my view, is becoming far more relevant. What I'm seeing is a lot more conversational around that within businesses, but also within our primary sector. You know, at the end of the day, New Zealand is a very primary sector based country. You know, food and fibre is a big part of who we are. Those conversations becoming far more real. We have a short window to make a change. In 5 years, I'd like to see radical changes and a big step towards more regenerative type farming or more sustainable practice farming. In 10 years, I'd like to think our waterways are really cleaning up. And then in 20 years, of course, we've just got this beautiful equilibrium and balance of a real clean green country.
We're using technology in our industry to be able to make much better decisions that are in the best interest of the land, the health of the land. So that's where it's going, you know, and we have to do that because traditionally a farmer would just throw the fertiliser and put the chemicals on. We want to move away from that and move to regenerative organic farming, and therefore all inputs can be measured on the farm using modern technology. The strategy is about being good ancestors. It's about looking forward like our Te Pae Tawhiti and be courageous and be ambitious for our region.
That's really what Whash is all about. It's about trying to create a legacy, trying to create intergenerational wealth for our whānau, and trying to create a space where people can come in, they can hear te reo Māori being spoken, they can experience tikanga such as manaakitanga and kaitiakitanga, and where the staff can work in pursuit of tino rangatiratanga. Really, that's what our purpose is. That's putting the power back in the hands of our own people. As a people, we're about 16% of the population here in Aotearoa. We're nowhere near 16% of the business population, and we need to be aiming that high. In fact, we should be aiming beyond that. We shouldn't be spending our money on Nike and Adidas. We should be spending our money on Māori brands. We shouldn't be buying Dolce & Gabbana and Louis Vuitton and whatever else. Why is that the pinnacle? We should be bouncing that Māori dollar around our own ecosystem before it goes out. We need to have Māori-owned supermarkets. We need to have Māori-owned petrol stations. We need to have Māori banks. I suppose that's the whittle, to try and inspire Māori to actually get out there and start building your own brands up so that I can spend money with you. I'll buy from you. I've got to buy a pair of sunglasses once a year, once every 2 years. Let it be a Māori pair of sunglasses.
And this is the important thing to remember about the economy. At its core, it is made up of the sum total of the spending and investment decisions made by people, by whānau, by businesses, and by government. One way to increase this spend is social procurement, and the government has a target to award 5% of public sector contracts to Māori and Pacifica-owned businesses. Such a small target is not equitable today, nor is it enough to overcome years of underinvestment into the Māori economy, but it is a start, and it provides a foundation for further investment in the years to come.
So we're here at Tikapa Organics with the Growers Collective. It's part of a suite of activities that we have going on that have kind of been ramped up due to COVID. So we're developing market gardens, milling timber for building houses, and planting natives and waterway restoration. These kaupapa are all kind of fledgling. We support them from a social entrepreneurial space, as opposed to Rua Bio, which is the medicinal cannabis entity that came out of Hikarangi Enterprises. That's been resourced to have a pathway into sustainability. So the other projects that we're looking at is how can we stand them up and give them the scaffolding to be successful. All that is around developing capacity for the future generations, but making sure that we've got income for our whānau now, because we know that the well-being of whānau is increased when you've got an increase of income into a household. The intent is not to be flash in the pan, it's intergenerational, it's around developing capacity of people so that they can support themselves. So the ability to move away from intergenerational dependency, welfare dependency, into a place of self-sustainment.
It's always been our vision to create our own honey industry here on the coast. So this is a combination of what we've been working on. We've never had the opportunity to have an extraction plant that we can own, we can run it with our people here. So I think it's more than just honey, it's actually developing our people, which is really important. Well, it's our land, it's our resource. For too long now we've allowed people to come in and just exploit it. It's a chance for us to have a real jobs here, real economy here for our people, whereas we can grow our own as well as people and develop them into real business people.
From my perspective, this is about us growing our own home economy. This is about us engaging our own people in resources that they already own. Then all of these other guys, they bring their thousands of hives, and we estimate probably about 4,000 or 5,000 hives, maybe even 6. They come in, they plant their hives on our sites. They rarely engage local people. They don't employ them. They drop the hives, they take the honey, and with them goes all the money. So we have a limited economy that can be expanded somewhat by having the money here from beginning to end. That's where the economy, our Māori economy here on the coast, will begin to gain traction. But this is a dream that can really work. This is a dream that if we pull our resources together and work at it together, it can work and it will work.
How do we work more collectively, to be successful? Because if we're going to supply any supply chain or any market, the collective power is better than the single power when you come all the way from New Zealand. I think we can lead the world by example about how to live from the land, the well-being of our people. It breaks my heart when I see that we produce so much food here in New Zealand to supply the rest of the world, yet I see our communities being hungry. Just imagine if our second grade fruit that doesn't have export value, why aren't we feeding our people? Imagine how happy a country would be if people were fed. So for me, this whole shift about well-being, caring for our land is the real now for New Zealand. If we don't seriously think about this and make these really radical changes, it's ours to lose in my view. We're only 4.7 million people. As a country, if we can't make a radical change and lead the world, then who can?
The power of collectivism cannot be understated. Our organisations are too small to go it alone. We need to work with each other, and we need to partner with others to build our capability and our capacity, and use this to build businesses that survive and thrive over the long term.
I think the future is definitely Māori. I think Māori have so many values to bring to the world. Once you couple it with things like technology and these different platforms that are available to us, the world will be screaming out for more of what it means to be Māori.
Like I said at the start of COVID, let's put the people before the profits. You could almost call it social capitalism, for lack of a better term, because it does come in with a people first attitude. It's not a normal corporate way of thinking, but it's a way that corporates will have to start thinking in the future if we want to make businesses work properly. To be a business that is more than just the business.
If we hold true to our values, then we can learn to navigate the ongoing disruption and the challenge of what lies ahead. Looking forward, our approach to business needs to change and adapt. Change and adaptation is our history and our future. In 100 years' time, the makeup of the Māori economy is going to look a lot different from what it looks like now. As more technology, creative and service-based Māori businesses emerge and grow. The vision is that these emerging sectors, alongside a wider shift towards a values-based, community-driven economy, will also fundamentally reshape the New Zealand economy away from an exploitative land-based economy to one that generates and delivers value for all New Zealanders.